This video is a wake-up call about the slow Islamization of Europe. In November 2024, during a recent parliamentary session, MP Tahir Ali called on the UK government to prohibit the desecration of religious texts and the vilification of prophets from all Abrahamic faiths. On the surface, this might seem like a reasonable call to promote societal harmony. But when you dig deeper, it becomes clear that what's being proposed isn't just about respect. It's about introducing modern-day blasphemy laws under the guise of combating hate speech. Criticism of religion, its prophets, and its texts is not hate speech. It is a fundamental part of free speech. This blurring of lines between legitimate criticism and hate speech is not only dangerous, it's an attack on our democratic freedoms. Let's unpack why this matters and why voices like mine and yours must not be silenced. Let's start with the basic premise. Prophets, by their very definition, are historical figures. They are public figures from their own time, shaping societies, laws, and cultural norms, however they were inspired back then. In today's world, public figures are subject to scrutiny, criticism, and debate, and rightly so. Why should prophets be exempt? If someone criticizes Gandhi or even Mother Teresa, no one calls it hate speech. If I say a historical figure like Muhammad or Moses committed acts I find morally reprehensible based on the texts that describe them, that is not hate speech. It is historical critique. Ironically, Muslims themselves engage in this very same practice. For example, Islam explicitly rejects the Christian belief that Jesus is divine, instead calling him merely a prophet. By this logic, if calling Muhammad a false prophet is offensive to Muslims, then denying Jesus' divinity should be equally offensive to Christians. Yet, Muslims feel entitled to critique other faiths while demanding immunity for their own. This glaring double standard exposes their attempt not to protect individuals, but to shield their ideology from the very scrutiny that apply to others. So, I would like to ask Mr. Ali, by that same standard, will you also propose banning Muslims from claiming that Jesus Christ is merely a human prophet and not God incarnate? After all, Christians find such a statement deeply offensive, as it disrespects one of their most revered figures. Wouldn't it then be fair under this proposed law to hold Muslims accountable for such claims? Or perhaps, Mr. Ali, is this law really intended to shield only Islamic doctrine while masquerading as protection for all Abrahamic faiths? Let's be honest, this isn't about equality. It's about privileging one ideology above others. Freedom of speech doesn't require me to respect your beliefs or the figures you revere. It protects your right to practice your faith without persecution. But it does not and should not protect those beliefs or figures from criticism. You may hold Muhammad as the perfect man, but I have every right to disagree and say otherwise. And that distinction needs to be made super clear. The term Islamophobia was initially intended to describe genuine hatred or prejudice against Muslims as individuals. And let me be absolutely clear. Targeting people for their beliefs, their race, or their gender is unacceptable. Hate speech that incites violence or dehumanizes individuals based on their identity or their religion should not be tolerated in any society. Needless to say, though, that is in relation to the living people among us today, not historical figures. But here's the problem. Terms like Islamophobia are losing its context and meaning and are now being weaponized to silence dissent, shield religious ideologies from criticism, and enforce compliance with a specific worldview. I'm sorry. In that context, Islamophobia is not applicable. Critiquing the actions of a prophet described in religious texts is not an attack on individual Muslims. It's an examination of history, of moral frameworks, and of ideas. To conflate criticism of religion with hatred towards its followers is intellectually dishonest and dangerously manipulative. The law is there to protect the individuals, not their ideas, saints, prophets, or sacred texts. What Tahir Ali is proposing is not about protecting individuals from harm. It's about protecting religious ideologies and historical religious figures from scrutiny. This is, in essence, a modern-day blasphemy law. And blasphemy laws are antithetical to the very foundation of a democratic society. History has shown us the dangers of such laws. From the medieval Europe to nowadays Middle East, they have been used to silence dissent, persecute minorities, and enforce religious orthodoxy. In countries like Pakistan and Iran, blasphemy laws have led to mob violence, imprisonment, and even the execution of individuals accused of disrespecting religious figures, texts, or traditions. Do you really want to import this mindset into the UK or Europe? Please take this question seriously. Democracy thrives on open dialogue, on the ability to question, critique, and even mock ideas. The moment we start policing speech to protect religious sensitivities and use law enforcement for political correctness, we open the door for tyranny, the erosion of freedom, and the suppression of free thought. The line between respecting people and respecting ideas is one we must never blur. This is the distinction that needs to be made loud and clear. People deserve respect. Ideas do not. As a deist, I don't expect anyone to revere or respect my worldview. Similarly, as a critic of religion, I am not obligated to respect beliefs or historical figures I find morally reprehensible. I am only obligated to accept all people living today, their dignity and freedoms. You have the right to your faith. You have the right to practice it freely, to worship without fear, and to be treated equally in society. But you do not have the right to demand my respect for a historical figure like Muhammad or Jesus. Respect is earned, not imposed. And silencing criticism of these figures under the guise of combating hate speech is not respect, it's coercion. MPs and lawmakers need to get that straight. Meanwhile, the public also need to be aware of this. The MP Tahir Ali's push to criminalize dissenting voices in the name of protecting religious sensitivities is part of a broader trend, the slow Islamization of Europe. Policies and proposals like this chip away at secularism, democracy, and freedom of expression one piece at a time. We've already seen how this plays out in other countries. There are many ex-Muslim whistleblowers around the world for a reason. Terms like blasphemy and Islamophobia are used to silence voices, stifle debate, and shield ideologies from scrutiny. Europe and the UK must not follow this path. If we continue down this road, we risk eroding the very freedoms that make our societies democratic and open. Freedom of speech is the cornerstone of a democratic society. It is the right to question, critique, and even mock ideas, religious or otherwise. What MP Tahir Ali is proposing isn't about protecting individuals from harm. It's about silencing disagreement, enforcing compliance, and shielding religious ideologies from scrutiny. Because criticizing a prophet is not hate speech. Scrutinizing the Quran or the Bible or whatever religious texts is not an attack on individuals. And respecting people does not mean respecting ideas we find morally or intellectually flawed. If we allow laws like this to take root, we are paving the way for theocratic control and the death of free expression in Europe. Let this message be loud and clear. Democracy demands free thought and free speech, not enforced reverence. If you found this video insightful and if you found the message in this video important to spread, please like and share as much as you can. And please subscribe to my channel, as it is the maximum support you can provide to grow the global audience and create real impact. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, never stay silent. Speak up, challenge ideas, respect other freedoms, but also defend yours.